Okay, we're rolling now. So
Me and Margret and Doug. So I'm third in line.
From the bottom.
From the bottom.
From the bottom, which makes you number 7.
Number 7.
Number
I
7.
am not. Now, I was
Are you
out.
ready to go?
yeah. Hey, Sherry. Sherry.
Okay, I'm Maureen Brown, and I live in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, the last 50 years, and my husband is too tired to come in here.
Thank God he's here.
He's sitting outside, 90 years old. Yeah, I guess it could be because he's 90 years old. And should I tell something about when I was a little girl?
We'll do that here in just a second. Okay. Aunt Margaret.
I'm Margret, Derrick,
Jackson.
Liverant. I'm gonna skip the next one.
Okay.
And Jackson. And I guess I'm number 8. One of a twin, was born dead. But my brother can't speak for himself because he isn't here. It's the last one.
And he was number 5
No,
in the family?
no, Dub was number 10.
Right.
Yeah,
But Daddy was, there was
he was before me.
Clyde, Ferry, Leonard, Helen, Jackie,
And
Bill.
Bill.
So he
Right,
was
he was
number
number
6.
six. Right.
And I
So
was
was
number
7.
7.
And I'm number 8.
And then Doug.
That was 9. But my twin was 10.
Right.
Laura and I drove by Doug's old house yesterday.
Have they rebuilt it?
Oh yeah, they rebuilt it right away because they wanted to sell it to
Clean it up, yeah.
somebody else. But it's the first time I've even thought about going, but I don't think we got the right house, so I'm going to look. I still got the number on Poplar Street where they lived, and we'll get the right place. But I always had an eerie feeling about that because I saw it on television, and I saw them bringing out their bodies in a big black bag, and the house was nothing but just ashes. It just, the fire was so intensely hot.
Explosion.
Yeah, it was an explosion.
And that was probably like in 1984, 85.
It was 87. 86.
So it was,
The year I got married to Doc.
so it was right before my mom died.
Because we got married in 86 and we went to a dance and we got to meet Dub. And Jean. Come on.
Okay, it's your turn.
My turn. I don't even know why I'm here. But these are my 2 aunts. The only 2 left living aunts of the Derrick herd. I'm the son of Clyde, who was the oldest of 10.
And she lived how long?
And mother died, mother was born in 1902. And she died, she was 92 when she died. So she died in, I can't even think.
1994.
Dallas.
Yeah, 94 in Dallas, right. And I was born in Arlington, out in the country where all these aunts and uncles were also dirt farmers, poor dirt farmers, sharecroppers and whatever you want to call it. And that's where we all grew up and became a real tight family. There were 7 girls and 3 sons in the Derrick family, and so that's the way it's all turned out.
And where,
So-
now where exactly was this?
In Arlington.
Texas? So it's
Arlington,
close
Texas,
to
between Dallas and Fort Worth, just about halfway in between.
It's called Watson Community.
It was out north. If you drew a line from the south end of DFW Airport to Six Flags,
Uh-huh.
that was right in the area where, right south of the Trinity River.
Yeah.
That's where the Sontier farm was. That's where our little farm was that Daddy and Mother they were sharecroppers. And that's where I was born in 1936. So that country now is just total businesses, industrial area, homes. There is no telltale signs of anything left of what used to be
The
No-
church is
no
still
the
peach
there.
Watson
trees.
community. No,
But
no
the church
peach
is
tree.
still there.
Is it?
The church is still
Well,
there.
it wasn't there the last time
I
I
got a letter
remember.
from Mary Sue, and she said they went out and they
Good.
went to church there.
Okay, the Presbyterian Church.
Yeah.
Watson Presbyterian Church.
Yeah, our family have always been very religiously oriented, so we were at church every Sunday morning,
And every Wednesday.
every Sunday night, every Wednesday, and once a month we had dinner, a big picnic, and invited all the singers to come. During that day, it was the Stamps Quartet.
Mm-hmm.
And all of their people that they were associated with.
They were radio personalities. Yeah.
Yes, and they were, oh, what wonderful music we heard. And we kids couldn't wait to get there. The people in the community brought all the food, and then the guests just came and ate and sang. And they would sing as long as that they could possibly sing till almost nighttime. But those were wonderful days.
Yep, they were. Well, then the war came along, and I think that changed all of us. Second World War. Because a lot of the, of course, family, Uncle Bill went off to war. Dub was too young for Second World War. No, he wasn't either. Yeah, yes, he was too. But he was a pilot in the Navy. And then all my older brothers and sisters, all four of them were in the service during the Second World War. And I was just, I was the caboose of the family. I was the youngest. And
Tell me your sister didn't get to come.
yeah,
Mary Helen.
yeah. I have a sister 2 years older than I am. Anyway, it brings back a lot of memories. And I can't help it, but there's a lot of emotion involved. Things that have happened. When I talk about it, I get hung up in it. But they're great memories of all the people. And even all of my uncles, particularly by marriage, were wonderful to me. They were great.
Well, you lost your father,
1942.
so they just kind of took over.
Yeah, they did, and it was great. And when Dad died, then we moved to the orphans home, Reynolds Presbyterian Orphans Home in Dallas, which is the site now of where Presbyterian Hospital Complex is in Dallas. It's a huge medical complex, and it was kind of a stair-step procedure. Reynolds Presbyterian Home was in Dallas. Trinity University, which is Presbyterian, was in Waxahachie. Then Trinity University built a new campus in San Antonio. The orphans home moved to Waxahachie, and then that big tract of land out in North Dallas was turned into the Presbyterian Medical Facility, as in the area they call Vickery. So that's where I grew up, and been there 70 plus years.
And then he got a wonderful job.
Yeah, I had a great career. And it was fun. It was great fun. I enjoyed it every day. I retired in '92 from my job at Texas Utilities as Director of Safety and Health. And then they wouldn't let me retire. My phone started ringing, so people all over the country, and I did a lot of consulting. But I finally retired this year in March, I guess. Decided it's past 70, time to quit, time to enjoy it. So Judy and I have fun.
One of the questions that I have is if you could talk a little bit, Margaret and Maureen, especially about your parents.
Oh,
I never knew my grandparents. Sherry did a little
Lord.
bit, but you know, they were gone by the time I had any memory.
Well, your grandmother, Derrick, her name was Eula B. Eula Brazoria.
Brazoria. Yep.
Anyway, she was really a card, and she just treated everybody so wonderful. And
No matter who you married, even Irving, she
Oh,
loved him.
she loved him to death.
She did, she loved him.
Sure.
She said, well, Christ was a Jew. He said, well, we gotta treat this boy fine.
That's right. That's exactly what she said. I remember it. Yeah. Yep.
oh,
That's right.
anyway, at Christmas time even, she would have all the family over, and she would dress up like Santa Claus, or she did one year. And she came in with her big sack of stuff and gave all the kids presents and stuff. So she was really a card. Nobody to put her down.
Grandma was a little short, dumpy lady. She was short,
With big legs.
big
Well,
legs,
she-
little kind of strong built, just like a typical Derrick build, you know. And Grandpa was tall
and thin.
and relatively thin, and they were quite a combination. Mutt
She
and
was a
Jeff.
good cook.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Well,
my goodness.
Look what she raised.
We wonder now how all of those, all of the wonderful ways that she knew how to cook and the things that she fed us to keep us healthy. And now we're turning back and going back to that way of life, of eating organic foods
Sure.
and drinking milk and doing the right things and drinking lots of water.
Gigi, tell what the story you told me earlier about how when it was 100-degree weather in Texas,
Oh,
how she would keep you kids cool.
oh,
Oh, yeah, well, one year, for about 3 months, it was over 100 degrees and kids were we were just dying. So she had us to draw up water from the well because there was no ice. There was no refrigeration, no ceiling fans, nothing that kept you
no
cool.
electric fans at all.
So we would draw up a big bucket of water and put towels in it to cool the towels, and then just lay them across us. And we would go outside in the trees. They had hammocks out there for us kids, and 3 or 4 of us could get on a hammock because they were not the swingy kind like they have now.
Spread out.
These were flat like that. Probably old springs from who knows, because we didn't buy a real hammock just to have comfort. It was just something that we came up with. So we cooled off with those cool towels. And
Mother was against liquor. And so my brother Bill, she had a lot of strawberries canned down in the cellar. And so a storm came, and these girls' father, he started seeing what he could do with those strawberries. The tops would kind of come off, and he just kept adding a little sugar and a little sugar. And first thing you know, he had wine. And my mother, oh, she loved it. She said, oh, I'm telling you, that is good stuff. And she's so against booze. And so she got drunk that time, and the postman came, the paper boy came by and left a paper. And she said, I just don't know what's wrong with me, but I just don't feel very well. And so Bill was still down there making that wine. And he didn't know how to make wine, but it just kind of fermented and it tastes pretty good.
One day he says to me, come go with to the cellar. Well, the cellar was just dug out place in the dug out dirt.
In the earth, yeah. It's all-
Yeah, so that
It had
they
wood
put
top on
all
it.
of the shelves, they put all their canned goods. And it being kind of under the ground, they didn't freeze or anything. So he says, come go with me. I want you to taste this. Oh, so I went down and of course, I guess I got a good snort. Yeah, that tastes pretty good.
Mother said, well, I'll tell you, I need to make some money so the chickens aren't laying eggs. So what I think we better do is maybe sell some of that strawberry, that drink that's going on downstairs. And so I guess he liked the wine, and I think he just gave it to him in a quart jar. But Mother didn't know that it was booze, or she had never allowed it.
Well, that was during Prohibition time, wasn't it?
I don't
Well,
know.
in Texas, I guess it's prohibition
Well, I
most
mean,
of the
you-
time. Well, some counties. In our county, we weren't supposed to have booze.
Well, I think there's 6 Flags there in Arlington, and I rode many a horseback on that land. And it used to be Wagner's,
Wagner Ranch, 3D Ranch,
Wagner's
3D.
racehorses.
But do they
Well,
still
they had a racetrack there.
They still have the racetrack there.
Not there, it's in Grand Prairie. There's a General Motors plant on the site of where the racetrack was.
Oh,
But the racetrack is in Grand Prairie now.
Oh.
Nice racetrack.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I heard.
But, Maureen was talking about going back to the old style of food. We had no refrigeration. Everything had to be canned in a old steam canner, on the stove. And this was during the summer when the gardens produced, and you did the canning on a wood stove. And you heated the canner till it blew steam and all that kind of stuff. And this was hard work, and my mother, from the time I was a little kid, always had a garden. We always had a garden, no matter where we were. Even when she was in the city, she had a garden in the backyard, and in her flower bed, she had an asparagus bed. And she planted asparagus, and about every other day, she'd go out there with her little knife and cut asparagus, and she always had fresh asparagus. But we were snapping green beans one night. We'd picked green beans out of the garden, we're gonna can them that weekend. And for some reason, I'd been to the store, and I was 10 or 11 years old, and I said, Mom, I was at the store today, and a can of green beans is 9 cents a can. I said, we're
9
working
cents.
awful hard for that. And she said, son, I know it. But she said, you know what? When I can them, I know what's in them.
That's right.
And what she put in them was pure, just no artificial junk that's in all of our canned goods we have today. That's why she lived to be 92, Aunt Fairy lived to be 98, and there's a lot of years there that I have a firm belief we're all built around good nutrition, even though we didn't have fresh things year round. First freeze in the fall, we killed hogs. I was just a little kid, but I remember that.
Yeah.
And we shared the pork from that hog all over the community because there was no way to keep it. Except Grandpa, of course, had a smokehouse, and he would sugar cure it and smoke it and whatnot. But that's just the way you did. When it came off the vine, you had it fresh, but there was no store to go to get it, so you canned it. Mother canned everything, all the vegetables. She canned meat. She canned pork, beef, not chicken, because we had chicken year round. But if you wanted to chicken for lunch, you'd go to the hen house, reach up there and grab him. Mother'd grab him by the neck and go wonk, wonk, wonk,
That's
pow!
right.
And that's how you had your chicken.
Let's go back to the canning. My
Yeah.
brother Bill was going to A&M college, and he worked at the exposition, cleaning out horse manure.
At the state fair, yeah.
Yeah, and for the summers. But Mother canned all this food, and the school, since he played football at A&M, he had a scholarship. And they took her canned food and said, we'll take all you've got for his,
Tuition.
yeah, for his tuition.
And Ray went to the same school, A&M,
Yeah.
down at College Station.
Yeah, that was my half brother.
And that was his half-brother. And he had canned goods. Clyde sent all these canned goods. Of course, they sent them for them to eat on. I mean, mainly that's what our parents thought they were sent for, but they even doubled it up by them accepting their tuition that way.
I remember him talking about that.
Yeah.
A lot of these stories you're telling I didn't know, but he did tell us that his tuition was paid for partially from
Right.
canned foods, and
And his
Mom
football.
had a story like that too, and it was paid for with something else, but I don't remember what it was. I don't think it was canned foods, it was some other commodity like that.
I remember him being in the war, and Dub, and he was so in love with your mother.
You mean Bill?
Bill.
I mean, Bill. And so she was going to a women's college, and he said, oh, she's true blue. She's true blue to me. And he says, and I'll be true blue to her.
She went to TWU, didn't she?
And so, when he came back from the service, he was in Florida, and Mother had never been on a plane, and they sent her a ticket, and she went and stay and visited them in Florida. The only time she's ever been on a plane in her life.
I didn't know that. And that's where
Yeah,
Sherry
and
was
you know, I
born.
went back to see the hospital where I was born in Tampa with a good friend of mine, and they chose a beautiful place to have me at. I'll tell you. But tell about dancing, Maureen, and skating in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah, well, we had such big meals with all this huge family. And besides all the children, Grandpa lived with us until he was 84. And finally then he passed away. But while we had these big meals, Bill and I both were to clean the dishes and clean up the kitchen. So we went, we had skates on. We skated all the time. We had these skates on and we'd come sneaking in. You know how you tiptoe like this and your mother doesn't know that you've got skates on. We tipped into the dining room table and we all ate. Jim and I, Bill and I just kept sitting there waiting for everybody to get up and leave. So after they left, we all washed the dishes, and wherever he was standing, he would just throw them to me. And I'd catch the dishes, or I'd throw them to him. And all this time on skates. Well, can't you imagine what licking we would have gotten if she'd have known we were going across that linoleum with those skates on?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was a lazy one, and they would always get ahead of me with the dishwashing. And so when they got ahead of me too far, I'd put the dishes back in the dishwasher. I'd be drying them so I could play catch up.
Put them back and let them rewash them.
Are you guys talking about the old days?
Yeah.
Good old days, yeah.
So Dub and I, we were always going fishing and sneaking off and catching turtles and things like that, but we'd eat them, you know. It was delicious turtle meat. They had chicken in it, tastes like chicken, it tastes like... Anyway, I was climbing up on the cabinet and to get some bacon that Daddy cured, and we took that butcher knife and we cut a piece. I'll watch for Mama, you get to cutting. So I did, I cut my thumb. See that scar on my,
Yeah.
I almost cut my finger off. I don't think we went fishing that day, but Mama never knew it. That she grabbed some ashes out of the, where they boiled our clothes outside, and she grabbed those ashes and put it on my finger, and it looks pretty good now.
We just wondered how they knew how to doctor with all those old-time remedies.
That was the purest thing they could have gotten.
It was a hand-me-down thing. They learned from their parents, and it was a,
I suppose so. Mama knew what to do. Well, when I was about 2 years old, I went out in front and sat down in a, what do you call
ant
them?
bed.
No, not an ant bed. Bees, a bee hive.
Oh,
And the beehive, they stung me all over, just all over. And I was hollering and screaming, and Mama ran, got the bluing. You know, people don't use bluing anymore. But she got the bluing and daubed it all over me, just here and there, every place where she thought. Well, when they finally I got through screaming and hollering and all of that, that bluing did the job.
When I was 7 years old, I have a little story to tell. I had a teacher called Mr. Hill, and his wife was also a teacher there, and she's a Mrs. Hill. And they turned out to be real hills.
really?
Because our house burned, and we could see it burning, and he wouldn't let me go home. And that my younger brother, Doug, was with me, and we were both crying. We ran across that cloud field, and you know, I wasn't worried that my parents was all right. I was worried about a stupid doll that I had up in the closet. The first doll I ever had in my life, and it burned, and that made me so sad. But we had some rough times.
So your family house burned down
Oh, yeah.
when you were 7.
Yeah.
This was when you were still on the farm, of course.
Oh yeah.
So is that,
Yeah,
did
this
you
was
move to
on
the
our
city or?
place that
We
my
didn't go to
dad
the
bought.
city till later.
So what were you farming? And did Grandpa and Grandma own the land?
Yeah, they had.
Yes,
My father got into an accident. He was a pipe fitter, and he was on the back of a one with pipes all on a truck, and somehow he fell off, and he injured himself real bad. Well, the company he worked for was highly insured, and so he did get insurance, but the times got hard, and we lost the farm. We took the money and bought the farm, and so then we just lived in a tent that they set up
well, we had a house next door.
for the kitchen.
Well, it was like a small house. It was kind of like a 3 or 4 room, just kind of straight. And they called it the servant's house. So we moved out into that, but with all the kids, my dad thought, well, we've got to fix a place for everybody to sleep. So that's why he built the big tent and put a wood flooring in it. And it wasn't too bad. It was the distance from that little place, about 5 or 6 feet, to get into the tent that was so cold when we'd go to bed. Oh.
And I had a goat.
You remember this?
And this goat, and Mama said, now, Margaret, you can't let that goat come in the house. Well, I did let the goat in, and he took all the paper off of the wall and ate it.
Oh, no.
I bet Grandma wanted to kill you.
Oh dear.
Well, Mother didn't seem to get too excited about things because he had so many things happen.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's quite a history there, huh?
And what was the crop?
We raised lots of watermelons, all that sandy land, and Brother would go way up the top and he'd get some nice watermelon. I said, no, you kids don't cut those watermelons up now. And so we just roll them down the hill, see. and in that nice sand, and, because we had lots of watermelons. And he said, don't you be breaking them and leaving them, you know, to rot. And so we'd roll them down the hill, and if they break, we just eat the heart out of the watermelon and hide the rinds. But we always had watermelon. We always got them down, and he would lure them and put them in the cistern and the well, so they'd be nice and cold. And on wash day, we always looked forward to getting a watermelon because we, you know, we'd be hot from, Mother would be for the washing. I don't remember doing anything with the washing.
I don't think he washed on the rub board, but I did. All of us kids used an old-time rub board in the washing.
And now
Wash
just
tubs.
look what my kids have.
Oh,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Did you see those beautiful washers,
Yes.
dryers? Oh, it's gorgeous. You don't even have to iron anything. They come out so slick.
Things have changed, huh?
Yeah,
Changed
times
a
have changed
lot.
considerably, yeah.
You
How-
were asking about Mother. In those days, we had lots of hobos, and they even came out to the country walking. And by the time they got to our house, we lived about 4 miles off the highway. And you know that they had walked a long ways and probably asked for a lot of food. But when they came and knocked at our house, my mother would go out, kill a hen or a chicken, whatever, and cook it, and maybe cream a bunch of potatoes and fix gravy and
She
beans.
always
She'd
fed
make a
everybody
big
that-
meal for 'em. And then they would say, well, we want to do something, different ones would say, well, we want to do something for work. Well, she says, if you really want to, you know, she'd give them a little job or two, but she never ever failed to cook for them. So you think we'd do that nowadays?
Probably not.
Her birthday is March 19th, and my birthday is March the 8th. And she had a heck of a time having twins, because the baby was born dead, and they didn't have a doctor, and, you know, she had a rough time. So,
I don't suppose any of us had a doctor when we were born. They just have a
midwife.
midwife, somebody that lived around in the community.
Yeah, well,
Didn't you tell me one time that she actually planned her burial and everything? Like she sat right up in bed and just planned everything that she wanted?
I don't know if I can talk about that.
Maureen
No,
took
no.
care of Mother
No,
in
don't do
her
it.
later days.
yeah.
And I was in the service, pregnant, with my husband. And we were traveling all over, you know, going from different bases, and I always worked in the government. But I didn't get to help Maureen with Mama very much. So I regret that.
Laura, come over here.
Oh, that's okay.
You can tell.
Well,
Oh,
it
that's
was,
okay.
it was a time that families, there were no such things as nursing homes and
Right.
places to put old people. We took care of them. The
I just
families took care of them at
Remember
home.
how, because you were saying your family was so religious and how that was one of the memories that my mom would always tell me, is that she would read her Bible stories
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
every day.
And you don't say any bad words either.
No,
If you said heck or good night, I said, that's not a bad word. He says, it's the way you said it.
Now, who said this to you?
grandma.
Your dad.
Yeah. I tell you, that's right. And it was also a time that, you know, boys didn't go without their shirts because they knew that the sun was harmful to your body. And when you got sunburned and things like that, it was harmful to your body. And we didn't, as a kid, I didn't go without a shirt.
My mother never allowed anybody
Nobody.
to come to the table with an undershirt on.
No, you were dressed. That's the way it was.
Didn't you tell me too one time how she was always appreciative for everything? Wasn't it where she would take the bus and there was an old tree stump or something? And she said, well, see there, God just left this tree stump for me to sit on to wait for the bus, or
Oh, yeah.
she was
Yeah, well,
always
Laura,
thankful.
Betty Ruth was with her,
Uh-huh.
and Betty Ruth probably told you that story, because I do remember that.
Yeah, I remember.
How close were the family at that time? How far did they live from each other?
Well, most of the time, most of our family lived in Dallas. And the first person to veer off was Margret, I guess, coming to Denver, because that's where Irvin,
No, Helen went to Mississippi.
well, yes, Helen did go to Mississippi and lived there till she died. And then Margaret came to Denver, and then we came,
And then
Jim and
Jacqueline
I,
and them came, Jacqueline and
and
Charles
then Bill
came.
and Ruth came,
Bill and Ruth.
and let's see who else. Oh, then Dub came.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Leonard was the oldest boy, and mother was really ill. And so he said, Mom, I heard about it. If you get a cow horn and boil it and drink that water off it, it'll cure your cirrhosis of the liver. And so he went out and got some horns, and they boiled it. And, oh, it was awful.
Yeah, the odor from
Oh, it was
that
terrible.
was so bad.
But she drank that, you know, and it was no cure. I mean, but we tried everything.
And interestingly, the thing, Grandma Derrick never would allow liquor or alcohol in her house, much less drink. But she died of a drinker's disease of cirrhosis of the liver. So
Right.
that's strange, but that's just the way it was.
But it happens.
It happened.
Yeah, my husband was a doctor, and he said that
Yeah.
alcoholics usually have that, but it can also be caused from other things.
So, yeah.
So Margaret, tell us how you met Irving, when and how, and
Well, in 1940, was it 42, and we were in a dance, and we were playing golf nearly every night. All we girls grew up in the country, and there was no dates or anything. So he said, we're going to go dancing, and we're going to go entertain the boys. And I was called, we had a Yellow Rose, the Yellow Rose Club, and would entertain the servicemen, you know, dance with them and all that. But you can't go home with them or anything. So Irving was there, and he said, I'm going to marry you. And I said, oh, that's crazy. I ain't going to marry you, you know. And he just kept calling home, and he called my mother. And he called at 1 o'clock, and I still went home. She's golfing. The girls are golfing. He said, I never heard of anybody golfing at midnight. Anyway, he kept after me, and in 3 months, we did get married. And Mother wanted us to get married in the home, but we didn't know, and she didn't know, that we had to be married by a rabbi. So we went to Austin, Texas with Sue Threet, a girl I'd gone to school with all my life, and she went and was my bridesmaid. And Mother never knew to this day that we were married by a rabbi. So I lived with him 30 years. Then I took care of him his last year on earth, and I don't regret it. It was wonderful. And he was happier than I've ever seen him in his life. He said, oh, I remember this good food. Oh, man. And then he wasn't able to drink or anything, and we got along real well. We played dominoes and fixed his favorite Jewish food, and he lived his happy life until he died. And I didn't get to go to this, to see his body. I wasn't there when he died, and I regret that. And I went to to the home where his body was, and because I wasn't his wife, they wouldn't let me come up and see his body. And his wife didn't want to see his body. So it was a sad funeral for me. But I've outgrown it, I've outlived it. And so I like helping other people that, just the day before yesterday, there was a lady crying and she was in the bathroom. And she said, help, help, help me. So I went over to her, I saw her wheelchair in front of the bathroom. And I extended my hand and had to get her off of the pot. And I said, are you here alone? She said, yes, I don't have anybody with me. And I called another lady I saw. I said, would you come help me with this lady? Nobody would pay any attention. So I got her in the wheelchair, and she said, she looked up at me and she said, you saved my life. So I go around trying to help people, because I figure that I'm already 84, so try to help where I can. And I hope somebody will be there when I need it.
That's the way it works. Yeah,
That's how it works.
they will. Yeah, they really will.
You told me before to tell you about our dancing.
Oh, yes.
Bill and me, we we couldn't dance too much in the house. We just have to, we got a little room someplace where we can do some steps. Well, we'd go to the movie and we'd see Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers do dances. And of course, we were trying to do their dances. Well, we must have got pretty good at it, because
They were very good.
we told Mama that we were going someplace on a Sunday afternoon, and we went to Fort Worth, and we were in a big ballroom, and we were dancing in there, and pretty soon all the people got off of the floor, and nobody but just us were dancing. Everybody says, let them have room, let them have.
They put sawdust on the floor to make it, you know,
Oh, the sawdust.
really slippery. And oh, I'm telling you, they could die. You know, Bill would put her through his legs, you know, and bring her in. Oh man, they were really good dancers.
Oh,
And so was
That's a
Ruth.
jitterbug.
Ruth too. Oh yeah.
when I used to, when I was in high school, when I graduated, we had for our, what do you call it?
Prom?
The prom? Yeah. Well, I couldn't think about asking anybody except my brother to go with me, because back in those days, my mother wouldn't let me go out with the guys, and certainly not to learn to dance. So he went with me, and I guess that was a happy time for him, because everybody there really did watch us, and that surprised me. But Bill was always a very, very strong dancer, and he liked to have fun and do crazy things. Sometimes we would go down on the bridges. There was an old bridge out by our house, and we would go down there and dance on the bridge. Somebody had an old radio, a battery radio, and we would take that down there.
Can we stop for just a second? I'm sorry, she wants to.
And Parker is so sweet. He never knows a stranger. He just sits in your lap, and those girls are just wiggly.
Well,
Well,
the way it
girls
is.
are wiggly. That's the way
right.
it is.
That's right.
Where were we?
Are we starting up
Dancing.
again?
You were dancing out of high school with Uncle Bill.
Oh, yes. Well, after that was over, we danced every time we got a chance. That was back in the days when you put a nickel into the
Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon, and boy, if you just had a few nickels, you felt great when you
Look
got
at
to
my
dance.
son.
Dance one that you liked to dance by.
You should
And
see
other
his
people
office
would
building. He's so proud.
put their nickels in.
It's got
But anyway, we had to
has-
slip off, not let anybody know we went
salon in
dancing.
one end.
Is that because
And
of
he has
the
5
church
apartments
beliefs, the
upstairs
Baptist
that he rents
church?
out, offices.
Yes.
You were
And
brought
he's
up in
got
the
big,
Baptist
big
church.
office.
Yes.
Because you
It's
mentioned a
bigger than-
Presbyterian church
Yeah.
earlier.
All
Yeah.
this.
It's really neat.
In the country, we
That's
went
all
to
we
a
did.
church that had Presbyterian material, but we were raised up like Baptist.
It was kind of an interdenominational thing.
Yeah, out in the country.
I have been baptized so many times. I would go to a church and it's Presbyterian. Oh, we gotta sprinkle you.
Well, you was the black sheep of the family.
That's great.
Okay, then I'd go to the Baptist church. Oh, you gotta be immersed. And he says, oh my gosh, I think you're gonna drown me, you know. I've already been baptized. I think I was baptized, and we went back to the Baptist church and they baptized me again. So, oh, but you're not in this, you know. So here we go.
And then you were married by a rabbi,
That's
so
great.
you probably had
That's
to
a
do some
great
kind of,
story. Oh,
I don't know.
She had a full and
You
rich
are-
life
You are totally
along with
blessed,
living with a
aren't
Mormon.
you there? Yeah.
with a
And then I
Mormon
lived-
husband.
Yeah.
I lived 18 years with
there
the
you go.
Mormon,
Well, there you go.
and he was wonderful,
Oh, it's great.
Wonderful.
I love
Yeah.
it.
but broke.
That just shows to go you that, you know,
Yeah.
You don't
it
know
doesn't matter
really.
what it is, we're all people, and all religions are trying to get you to the same
I
place.
think so.
And we're just-
Amen. Yes.
We're
I
just
agree.
happy to be here, really.
Right.
And I never dreamed I'd live such a long life, but I think I'm gonna outlive his mother, which was
I hope you do.
98, and it will be 100, and it won't be pleasant.
Well,
Because
you
I've
know.
already got arthritis
Ah, well,
in my
I don't know. You're doing pretty good.
my
yeah,
knees.
you're doing pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah, you,
Well, I think we've all been blessed in different ways,
Oh, absolutely.
you know, with great family.
and
our
lots of love.
lots of love. And you know, our families were all together. And it was just the way people were. And we got somebody oozing down along the table. But I think that if there's anything that we can give to our kids, is that, you know, philosophy and way to get along in life, to make things happen together. Because, you know, we're not isolated. We grew up helping each other. We're going to go out helping each other. And that's just the way it is. And,
Well, my mother was a seamstress, and she would take old clothes that people give us and make us coats and pants and, you know, anything that we had. And we had flour sacks for drawers.
oh yeah. You know, that old Dolly Parton song, A Coat of Many Colors, that her mama made it.
I thought.
Well, we did that.
Yeah.
We did that. My mother made me shirts and things of scraps and whatnot, feed
Right.
sacks.
I have quilts now that's got I can
I know.
remember who wore what.
That's right. That's right. Mother made a lot of quilts. We did all those
Especially
things.
the one that's in the motorhome.
Yeah. They were warm too. Buddy,
You know-
they were warm.
This is
Clyde made that quilt that he has in his motorhome.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I've got some.
And it is thick and it's huge.
It's filled with polyester and it's warm.
Oh, very warm.
Oh, yeah. I made the racks that the quilting frame she had hung up in that back bedroom and helped her roll them and all that stuff all through the years.
Yeah.
She made hundreds of them.
Well, now, we haven't talked about Papa too much.
No.
He was a wonderful man. It was just the fact that he was working and working a lot of times out of town. So Mama was the main one that was there for the kids and to raise us and cook and wash and all of that. But,
Well, he was a great guy. Yeah.
but Papa was he was religious too. And I was gonna tell us something else.
My mother would walk to church 3 miles.
Well,
And
Papa
he would
never.
always be in the back.
Yeah.
He'd always,
Singing bass.
yeah,
You could hear him all over the church.
yeah.
Yeah,
He was a deacon in the
Yeah.
church.
But Papa never learned to drive. Never had an automobile.
We had an automobile, but nobody drove but Doug.
well,
Yeah.
the kids did and
Yeah,
Ray.
but well, Ray and them did.
Bill
But,
and Ray.
yeah, but I
Helen
mean,
wrecked
he
that
he
car.
didn't drive.
No,
And I remember when after we left the orphanage home and we lived with Grandma and Grandpa, my mother, and sister and I, And Papa and I would walk from the house up to the highway, old Highway 80, catch a bus and go into Dallas to the baseball game at night. And then we'd walk a mile off the bus line to the park and go to the ball game and then come back and
Now,
ride
I
the bus
never
back.
knew that he took you with him.
Oh, we
He
went
loved
all
ball
the
games.
time. We
My,
went.
my mother used to say, all of a sudden, Papa would just disappear.
Well, he and I go to the ball game.
We wondered where in
Well,
the
they didn't
world.
communicate too well.
Well, you know, they had the radio and he could hear them,
Well, we
But-
used, yeah.
and she loved boxing. She loved the fighting. Oh, she just gets so excited. She just do that and fighting. She'd go fight with those guys right there. And you know, they didn't have TV, but this was on the radio.
Descriptive on the radio.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
they made it real.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
man, she loved that fighting.
Yeah,
And that's unusual for her to love something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Haven't you got enough?
we just, you know, we didn't have all the entertainment stuff and the
Oh, I haven't
TVs
told
and the
about the
cameras
pickles
and,
yet.
and all that kind of stuff. We just had to entertain ourselves. And we played, we did things, and we fished, and we hunted, and we
Played
worked.
lots of dominoes.
Lots of
and-
dominoes and stuff, and the cards weren't allowed.
No, sir.
Oh,
That's
I had-
gambling.
My
I had a
cards
deck
went
one
to the
time.
fireplace.
That's right,
And she said, that's the works of the devil. Throw them in the fire.
that's right.
And so, my brother Bill, he taught school at Laterno Institute. And really, the kids came to play there. And they'd play on their tricycles, and they'd go up, and they had lots of room to play and inside, you know, that big school where they lived. And one day, we could hear the kids giggling and laughing, giggling and laughing. Bill said, you know, I'm gonna sneak in there and see what those kids are doing. And they had an old photograph, and they put pickles on it. And those pickles are going around and around and around and around. And then the more Mike was laughing, the more Gail was laughing. And she said, my goodness, they're gonna run that thing with all that pickle juice.
That was entertainment.
Yeah, that was right.
Oh, Lord, that was entertainment, it really was.
Oh,
Well,
shit.
before we wrap up, is there anything more you want to tell?
No, our big prayer, we had a, what do you call those things over the creek? A trolley. And I wasn't strong enough to get on the trolley and go across, so I never did get across the creek. But all the big kids, like Helen, Maureen, and
Yeah, like Maureen.
and we always went over, you know, you
I
go
know.
like this and go over the, and
It was
because,
a deep, deep crevice.
and there's
over
a
the
creek
creek.
down there, and it's got water moccasins in it, which are snakes, and they're very dangerous dancing. You gotta watch out for those water moccasins. So my brother, we had all these cats that came to the community, and they just had so many, so my brother said, I'm gonna take a sack of them, and I'm gonna take them down to the creek, and I'm gonna drown them all. I said, oh, please, don't drown them. I'll kill them. So I got me a little stick, and I hit one of them in the head, and he just went like this, and I started crying. He said, I told you I'd take those things down to the creek and drown them.
I hadn't heard that story.
And so I get, you know, so they put me in the creek one time, and I didn't know how to swim. And he said, you'll find a way, you'll get out. And I kept thinking of those cats that was drowned in there. And I did get out, but you just had to learn the hard way.
Well, Bill taught me to swim, and it was over a real big, wide river. He jumped in and swam across. Fine. I said, it's too far for me. He says, no, it's not. Just kick your hands and make your arms wave. Well, I almost drowned. I did go under just before I got there, but I finally got out. He pulled me out. So he pulled me out of a lot of different things that we were into. But one of the other things I wanted to tell was, we used to live near some railroad tracks.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the
In
railroad
Wichita
tracks,
Falls.
that was Wichita Falls. It was a long ways from where the tracks were down to, well, it went over Red River. I don't know if you remember that or not, but here's a post, and then here all this is water. Here's a post, then water, and another post. And we would walk across that, all the way across the river by stepping on
Cross ties.
cross ties just while we were young kids. But if Mama had known that, she would have killed us.
Well, my grandpa, he'd always give me a penny, and because I like candy, and I could go down and get a couple sticks of candy. So this time they said, "Don't spend your money that way. Let's go put them on the railroad track, and then smash them, and they'll make them so pretty." And so we did. We took a couple of pennies and put them on the railroad track, and they just smashed them to smithereens. You know, we could have derailed that.
Well, it is against the law to
Yes.
put anything on the
But
railroad.
we did it anyway. And we put straight pins like this, then make crosses, see? Well, we don't have anything else to do, except they'd put me on a tire and then roll me down the hill in it. One of those great big truck tires. Oh, yeah.
It wasn't that start that was bad, it was that sudden stop, wasn't it?
Yes, when it goes over like this.
Kablooey. Yeah.
Okay.
How are we doing?
That's it.
We're done?
Oh,